Night falls suddenly in the rainforests of the upper Amazon. One moment, the little clearing was bathed in greenish gloom by the light filtering through the dense carpet of the treetops overhead. The next, it was plunged into darkness. The Indian porters were busily setting up the little encampment. Soon the tents were up and a campfire blazing. The explorer came out of his tent and watched the Indians going about their work, unpacking supplies and preparing the evening meal. Everything seemed normal. They'd carried out this routine 100 times before, but somehow the atmosphere was thick with fear and menace. Suddenly, the men stopped work, huddled together, and began to whisper amongst themselves. The explorer thought of the heavy revolver packed somewhere at the bottom of his luggage. Then he shook his head. He wasn't going to turn against everything he'd always believed in. His business was saving lives, not destroying them. His wife came from inside the tent and joined him. She seemed tiny, almost childlike beside his lanky form. He put out an arm and drew her to his side. She nodded towards the little group of Indians. "They're still on the warpath, then?" He nodded his head. "You're telling me, love, you could cut the atmosphere with a machete." They stood for a moment, listening to the low voices of the Indians. Then the old man, who was their recognized leader, detached himself from the others and came towards the tent. The explorer's wife looked on as the old Indian stood before them. He was speaking in a guttural, urgent voice. She had never mastered the Indian speech, but she could easily guess what he was saying. She heard her husband reply. Languages came easily to him, and he was fluent in all the Indian dialects. Perhaps it was something to do with being Welsh, she thought. After that, other languages must seem simple. She listened intently to the voices of the two men. It was funny how much you could understand, even without knowing a word of the language. She heard the old Indian's voice, stern and insistent, then her husband's protesting, persuading, a further burst of staccato syllables from the Indian, a sweeping gesture at the blackness of the surrounding jungle that could only be a threat. Her husband again, resigned, placatory, reassuring. The Indian peered keenly at him, black eyes impassive under the fringe of black hair. He gave a final satisfied grunt and strode across the clearing. She could hear him talking to the others in a low voice. After a moment, the porters started working again. She felt her husband's hand on her elbow, and he led her back inside the tent.